All right, how's everyone doing? Hopefully well. Hopefully well. Who's ready for some news? Who's ready for some news? Thanks for the logo. Worked hard on that. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so as a lot of you guys know, I know there's a lot of new followers, so I'll just cover really quickly. This is our news segment. We go over the news. You guys get a chance to bring news items that you guys think might have been important for software engineers. And I bring you news that is mostly geared towards working software engineers, although we do cover some other topics that are just of interest, maybe not majorly important. All right, so let's get into it. So as usual, we start off with security, and really, I actually saw only one big thing. Now, I know previous weeks we covered some really big topics like leaky vessel and those things. This week, the only thing that we really have to question is who watches the watchers, and that's the problem that we've had at this point. Avast was fined $16.5 million for privacy software that actually sold users browsing data without telling them. I believe that $16.5 million was actually too low for this. The FTC should have gone after more of their money. This is a... Sorry, my phone just went off. I meant to mute that. This is a travesty that my phone was on, as well as this happened. We've always known that some antiviruses software has been more like a virus than they have been antivirus, but this is a pretty bad Have you seen this AWS security side quest? No. Post a link. We'll talk about it in the clouds. Absolutely, bring up your own data. If you do have something to add for a section, bring it up. We have several sections to go over today. We have the security, we have industry news, we have artificial intelligence, software development, and cloud. So absolutely. So yeah, that was it for security. I didn't see anything major. There's one issue that we're going to talk about later with Java that is tangentially a security issue because it could cause unavailability, but right now isn't considered a security vulnerability. There's no like CVE related to it, so we will be covering that though. All right, let's talk about industry news. There's a couple things. I guess there's really just two things that I'd like to talk, or three things in the industry to talk about that are of interest to us. And the first one is that Reddit has filed for an IPO. Reddit files to go public. Now, one very interesting thing here, and maybe I should have found a different website. I thought I had a different website. Maybe I closed the wrong one. Anyways, one of the interesting notes here on the Reddit discussion topic is that they have lost about $90 million, but their gains were up in 2013 by 20%, which is 20% growth is really actually not bad at all. So they're filing to go IPO. Now, this is a little bit weird as generally this is not how companies IPO, but I'm really interested to watch how this IPO goes because I think this will say a lot about the industry as a whole, about how things are going for it. I know we've talked about funding and things like that. And late stage funding for startups have kind of been a little bit more restrictive as companies actually look for these companies to turn a profit. So I'm interested in looking at this, seeing how it goes, and watching this, and I'll cover it more going forward. They only make money by selling forum posts. Maybe is that how? Honestly, we had this discussion last week about how search engines had this symbiotic relationship with content creators where they actually gave exposure, and whereas AIs actually have a real problem where they're actually eating their own lunch. They're actually destroying the content creators that actually give them the thing to continue training their models to make them better. And then they'll get into, I know this isn't actually what people call poisoning. Poisoning is when people purposefully put bad information in there, but they'll poison themselves by training on their own data, which has been proven that if an AI trains on its own data, it goes very badly for it. It gets much worse. So you don't want to train your AI on its own stuff. It's like I won't say that. So anyways, maybe this is how, maybe instead of selling ads, you sell the access to companies training AIs. Maybe. I don't know. But talking about that, let's talk about that. NVIDIA briefly hits $2 trillion valuation as AI frenzy. It's an AI frenzy grips Wall Street. So basically, NVIDIA has been doing very well for itself. As you can see, it has what a lot of people use especially in data centers, to train AI stuff. So it's one of the you think of OpenAI when you think of AI, but a lot of what OpenAI does is based by this. Even Sam Altman wants, $7 or $8 trillion to take on NVIDIA. So this is another thing to watch. This is a little frightening to me. This looks very .com bubbly to me, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll keep monitoring it. And the last thing in this kind of general news, general industry, I'm calling it the industry news, is that India stance on data transfers at WTO spooks chip giants. So there's been this accord since 1998 on how information and whether you tax information in and out of India. And that accord is up for renewal. Now, it hasn't not been renewed, and that deadline hasn't passed either, but people are slightly worried as this would do a lot to actually upset an already faltering chip industry. So the chip industry already has a lot of, the semiconductor industry already has had a lot of turmoil. And this could just be another thing. About 20% of the semiconductor experts are in India, and this could damage it. So it's another thing we'll watch. Doesn't directly affect software engineers, but the rest of the stuff does. So let's talk about software development. Let's talk about news in software development. Then we'll talk about some news in AI stuff. And then we'll talk about the clouds. Does anybody have any stuff to add here? All right, well, let's jump into it. So I know there are some huge JetBrains fans in my community, and I wanted to let you guys know that if you are using JetBrains, they are releasing a new terminal in their editors. You heard that right. JetBrains has announced a new beta for its new terminal access in its IDEs. Now, something that's really interesting is this new terminal. One of the features that has in it, very much so, looks like the warp terminal, something we're going to get to in just a second, where it kind of puts in blocks the different sections. So anyways, they're revamping the internal terminal in the IDE. I would love your feedback, whether you guys like it. I don't use JetBrains myself, but if you do and you want to give me your thoughts on it, I would love to hear those and report those to the community. Or if you're in the chat and you have used it, let us know. Let us know how you like it. This is something I had alluded to about Java. If you are a Java developer, there is a virtual thread pinning issue. So in Java 21, JDK 21, there was these new virtual threads, which you can think of as green threads. I had to look it up. I haven't done Java for a little while. They're very much like green threads. So you could think of Tokio or just Go threading in general. And the weird part is that there's actually a pinning issue that happens where the threads can become pinned and basically block resources, and you can actually get a deadlock in the underlying system at this point. Now, there are the new Loom early access builds that have been recently published looks to have made an implementation to help monitor and avoid two of the most common cases to cause these pins to deadlock. And they're looking for feedback and testing. So if you use Java and this is interesting to you, you can join them. And I'm gonna post this link. So you can check that out. So it's very, very, it's an interesting problem. Very interesting. There's also a video. I didn't get to watch the video. I didn't have the time to watch the video. But if you're into Java, I would probably take the time to watch it. As far as releasing every 6 months, I actually think that it's a fairly good thing for like a language. And the reason is your standard microservice continuity delivery doesn't really make sense as a general. And it's also really hard to designate what a new release is, especially if you have like backwards compatibility. So doing a standard every 6 months, it doesn't thrash developers too much as it's not always releasing something new, as well as it just gives you a cutoff if it's been 6 months. There's not maybe there's nothing majorly new, but you cut a release anyways. You have bug fixes, you have 6 months of work in there, maybe no drastically new things. But how do you decide when a new release? I actually kind of like the every 6 months. I think that's kind of a nice cadence for things like languages or whatnot. Yeah, I'm also not sure if NVIDIA can I'm not sure. NVIDIA has two problems that I see. One, they have this very extreme growth expectation. So anything falters in AI, anything falters in those types of things, and that can very negatively affect it very quickly. But the other thing, there's two other things, just chip shortage that can hurt them. They already released an announcement to expect constrained amounts of the new chips that are coming out. And then the other thing that comes into is the competition. There are, Intel has their own cards, not up to par by any means. AMD, the same story. AMDs are getting there though. AMDs are getting there. And when they get real competition, that could flatline really quickly, really, really fast. So I guess I'm looking at Intel and AMD to really bring something. I know there's some startups that I've been watching around ARM-based GPUs. Maybe that's a thing. So we'll see. We'll see. I think for the next year, two maybe, they're solid. I don't see any real competition. But 3-4 years out, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not a GPU expert, but But even CUDA is going out, right? They're replacing CUDA. I know that most of the things are on CUDA right now, but NVIDIA is actually moving from CUDA anyhow. And making a compatibility layer isn't that difficult. All right. Moving on with software development. Moving on. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Okay, we were right here. Okay, now moving on. Sorry. What's up, Xcoding? ngrok. So if you guys don't know what ngrok does, they actually make a command line tool that's really convenient that allows you to expose your PC. They have now unveiled a API gateway as a service. This actually seems fairly interesting as far as the possibilities that you could leverage with it. But it's also something to be watching. I'm kind of excited to see them branch into something that's tangentially related but not exactly related. So yeah, anyways, it's out there. I know that a lot of us know what ngrok does and use it. They're expanding what they do and how they do it, and that's cool. That's cool. I thought I'd let you guys know. The Dart language is getting an update. Now, Dart 3.3, I don't use Dart, but Dart 3.3 is laying the groundwork for WebAssembly. Now, this does not mean that it supports WebAssembly and you can just go out and start using it, but it is laying the groundwork for WebAssembly. So you can kind of expect to have, full WebAssembly support in the future. Exactly how soon or when, I don't know, but it's meaning that it's more better supported. Now, all of you guys know that I'm a little hesitant to be all in on WebAssembly. I question exactly what problem people think it's going to solve in the back end, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be watching it and we shouldn't be excited for it, because maybe it really does solve a problem and I just don't understand it yet. So yeah. And the last thing in this developer news section, Warp was released for Linux. Now it's ready for Linux. This used to be a Mac-only terminal, and now they've released it for Linux. Now, we tried this on stream yesterday, and my feelings on it were not positive. They were not positive. We had several in the community that struggled to actually get it to install and work and not hog a bunch of resources on their computer. We found it to be lacking in many features that a normal terminal would. It didn't play well with Vim or Tmux either. So it was not a massively positive experience. Now, that being said, the AI portion of the terminal was interesting and cool. I thought that it was a unique thing, and that in itself was kind of interesting. One thing that actually kind of blows my mind is that Warp does these blocks where each command kind of runs in its own block, and it's very easy to see. And JetBrains actually copied this in their new terminal. I think it's kind of interesting. Do people do this? I know with something like Zhush and Power Level 10K, you can actually do this as well. I've never actually really liked it where each thing is in its own block, but I see that a lot of them are going that way. Is that a common thing that people like? We have been spoiled by WesTerm. Russell, it's very hard. Like I am critical of it, but it is very hard because Linux has some of the best terminals out there. And so when you go to play in the Linux terminal world, you go to play against some of the best terminals in existence. On Mac, it's easy. You have like one terminal and it's not very good. But here you have people that have been building terminals to use on Linux for a very long time. And so it's a hard problem to do. It's a hard problem to tackle. Now, that being said, I found the AI portion of it fun and easy to use. I liked that aspect of it. But the terminal itself was not the best. All right, moving on. Did anybody else have anything in software development as a whole? Those were the biggest things I saw for software developers. What's a good Powerline-like thing for shells? I can share on one of my streams. I can share what I do. We can even clip it as a null byte for people. I don't know that it's particularly good. It's what I learned at SUSE when we adopted Jush. It's just what I have. But it works. It works. All right. Well, if nobody has anything to add, remember to do bring your own stuff. If you see stuff, I classically miss something. People were talking about React 19. I haven't covered React 19. I don't generally cover front-end frameworks because there's a whole bunch of them. Now, if we wanted to pick a few, we could do that. Or if we wanted to pick like really pivotal things, because React is, one of the biggest front-end frameworks. I don't mind covering that some. I don't classically cover that because I feel like there's people that talk about front-end stuff way more informed than I do. But yes. All right, let's talk about AI. Now, last week we talked about Sora, released by OpenAI. And I was skeptical. And I actually am glad that other people in the industry actually followed my sentiment. You can find a lot of different people out there that are experts as well, that are skeptical. And they're skeptical because so far, they released a couple, like 3 short videos, and they stated what they could do, but haven't really put anything out there for people to use. Not only can we not use it yet, but they're also not sharing like how many different times they had to iterate to finally get a video that looked as good as they did, because they just posted some videos that they generated. So yeah, you can find definitely a couple different places out there where you can find people talking about that. Now, a lot of people are also terrified by what it means. But I think before you get terrified, what I really want to say is let's actually understand. OpenAI basically pulled a Google here. OpenAI pulled a Gemini. And what is a Gemini? It's where you release something with no proof, not allowing people to use it. And when you don't allow people to sign up immediately to try it, it says it's not done. Whatever they're doing, it's not done. Now, what does that mean? In Gemini's case, it was pretty terrible. It was pretty bad. What Gemini did was very bad. And I'm not saying that OpenAI is doing that, but the fact is we don't know. We honestly don't know. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But there is a cool open source project that I found around AI. Haven't used it yet, so I don't know how good it is, but it looks interesting. Maybe we'll try it on stream at some point. But there is Quiver. That's what I'm going to pronounce it as. Quiver. Your second brain empowered by generative AI. Now, they say that you can think of this as Obsidian, but turbocharged with AI capabilities. Interesting. An interesting take. I actually kind of think I would love OpenAI plugin for Obsidian. That sounds fantastic. It might even exist. But anyways, so yeah, it's AI powered assistant that lets you query your own notes. So you can basically take notes and the AI will respond to you about the notes and stuff that you've taken, which seems pretty cool. And you can run it all locally because it's an open source project. Now, again, I don't know any of the effects of that, like how good it is or anything like that, but it was a cool open source project around AI that I thought was pretty good. Actually, I'll post a link to it. Did I? No, Sora is not available to subscribe yet. They said that they were going to open it up to a few select people at some point, but they never mentioned when that some point was or who those people would be or whatnot. I actually used to have an OpenAI subscription, the $20 a month, but it was just, I was not using OpenAI that much. And so I don't anymore. I'll probably get another month at some point when we do the AI games again. So maybe in a couple months or so, I'll get another subscription. We'll do the AI games again another weekend. And we'll see how they're doing. But as of this moment, yeah, I don't subscribe to any AI thing. All right. Stable Diffusion is now in early preview. Stable Diffusion 3. So this is the thing that powers your text to picture. Supposedly Stable Diffusion is better than Stable Diffusion 3 from everybody's comments. I haven't actually compared the two, is better than Midjourney. It used to be Stable Diffusion 2 was worse than Midjourney, and Midjourney had a leg up on Stable Diffusion. And people are saying that Stable Diffusion 3 is now better than Midjourney. I don't have personal experience to tell you if that is true or not. Just I have read several articles about Stable Diffusion 3, and people are saying that Stable Diffusion 3 is better. Is it? You guys let me know. But it's out. You guys can go use it if you like. Interesting article that came out was this. GitHub Copilot makes insecure code even less secure. So this was something that came out by Sneak. I thought I had the original article. Sneak made this. Let's actually get that. All right, yeah, here's this. So basically, this just talks about how Copilot quality over quantity. But basically, GitHub Copilot can make bad security decisions. And that is what has been found on several occasions from researchers from Sneak. Now, researchers from Sneak, who are they? You know, you're going to sit there and say, oh, this isn't Google's, you know, I just now forgot Google's offensive security team. Anyways, that team, which I can't remember its name now, which is pretty famous and I should remember its name, but I can't. It's okay. Anyways, Sneak did just in last November discover the leaky vessel in containers, which it hit many things, including Run C and other things in Docker build kits specifically. And that being said, like they are actually pretty good. And what their researchers have found is that Copilot doesn't increase your security. It actually can decrease your security if you accept some of the things that it says. And this goes into my entire statement and sentiment. If you do use AI to code, your code is your responsibility if you check it in. And if you're using AI to assist you, it's assisting you. You're still the person responsible for it. It's almost like with electricians, they usually have somebody that's learning from them, and I forget the exact term. It's like journeyman and Padawan. It's probably not Padawan, but the journeyman and their Padawan. And the responsibility is on the journeyman, the person that is, doing the work, and it's their responsibility to ensure that it's right, even if it's their Padawan that's doing it. Apprentice is probably the better term. Apprentice. There you go. So I would say that you take that with all AI tools that you use. It's your apprentice. It's your apprentice. You use it and you leverage it, but you're responsible for the code. You're responsible for reviewing the code that it generates. But anyways, I have said that I kind of assumed that this was a thing, but I never had any actual real proof of it. Just, my gut feelings. Those aren't always the best to go off of. So it was kind of cool to see this. I'm interested in seeing more of this in the future. What about you guys? Did you guys see anything else in the artificial intelligence that I missed for this week? Besides the word apprentice. We can start on cloud news. All right, so the clouds didn't actually have a whole lot going on, but they had some interesting things. Now, we all have heard of Google Gemini, but have you heard of Google Gemma or Gemma? I don't know. I'm going with Gemma because that sounds better than Gemma. But have you heard of Google Gemma? Well, if you haven't, Google Gemma is a new state-of-the-art open model. Now, I appreciate that they say not open source model because it's not actually open source. It's kind of like the hot water llama got into because they said they were an open source model, but they were really just a model that you could leverage. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I don't really care that much. Anyways, Gemma is based on their Gemini model. Now, they say based on, and I don't know what that really means as far as how close it is to Gemini, but it's an open model that you can go use, and you can even leverage it under you can make money terms. What is that called? Responsible commercial usage. Now, you can read over their terms of use on how you're allowed to use it, but it is open for you to use. And they have a bunch of ready-to-use collabs, Kaggle notebooks, alongside things from Hugging Face, MacText, NVIDIA Mimo, TensorRT, to kind of make it easy for you to leverage. And they make it easy to leverage in Google Cloud. Now, my understanding is that you don't have to use it in Google Cloud, but I couldn't find a way to use it outside of Google Cloud because they have been the only people to release anything on how to use it. So there's not been a hacker engineer that has made it work somewhere else. So all of their stuff is around how to use it in Google Cloud. So if you're in GCP and you want to check it out, fantastic. If you're not in GCP, want to check it out and help us figure out how to run it elsewhere, awesome. They have a 2 billion and a 7 billion parameter. Yeah, a 2 billion and a 7 billion parameter. So I don't think that this is something you're going to run locally, as those are really large data sets. So I doubt that you can run this locally. I doubt it, but who knows? All right. So this is Gemma. Again, you can request access to it. And I guess I added this because not only did they release Gemma as an open thing that you can use, and like I said, I'm pretty sure you can use it outside of Google Cloud. They released it on the Google Cloud, so you can basically press button and use. So they made it easy. So if you've been leveraging Vertex AI and want to leverage this as well, you can go ahead and go for it. There's also the early bird registration for Google Cloud Next 23 is now open. What the crap is this? This is old news. Why is this here? I don't know why this is here. Talk about production quality. Talk about production quality. I thought that they were saying Google Next 24 was early registration. We got to look at that. Because it was in their current news. And I read it as Google Next 24 because it was in their latest news that I was looking through. I didn't go a year in the past. One second. Let me let me Google this really quickly. Google Next. Okay. I don't know if that was a bad link that I clicked on, but early registration is now open for Google Cloud 24. So if you're interested in going to this early registration, you get a little discount on price. So if you were going to go, it's only $1,000 instead of $2,000, half off. What a steal. And Raj, this is why you won't see me there. It's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. I was being sarcastic with the steal. You not only do you have to pay $1,000 to go see it, it's in Las Vegas. If you've gotten a hotel there, you might want to bring 5 people to share the cost of the hotel with you. And on top of that, you got to feed yourself the entire time there. I mean, unless if your work is paying for you to go, it is a very expensive thing to go to. All right. AWS. And by AWS, I actually mean Azure. Public preview of regional disaster recovery by Azure backup for AKS. So now, actually, this was like the week of backup for Azure, maybe the 2 weeks, because we actually had some backup stuff last week as well. So now your regional disaster recovery by Azure backup for AKS is in public preview. So if you're using AKS and want to have backups regionally, you can now do that. That being said, sending a log search alert with cross-tenant target resources will no longer be supported. I don't fully understand this, but I saw this and I thought I would announce it for people that do leverage Azure. I know it's my weakest cloud and I don't follow it that well, but a log search with cross-tenant target resource will no longer be supported. Again, I don't fully understand this, but it sounds pretty serious. Not only that, you only have till March 15th, so like another month before this is gone. So you have about a month to change this. I'm assuming there's some security reasons behind this. Cross-tenant always seems scary anyhow. You put the word cross-tenant in there. So yeah. Anyways, if you're doing this, you have a month. Hopefully you got an email as well. AWS, Azure Web Service. Thanks for trying to save it for me, guys. Yes, we're talking about the Azure Web Services, not the Amazon Web Services. Update records in a Custo database, public preview. Custo databases, either in Azure Data Explorer or Fabric KQL database, are optimized for append ingestion. In recent years, we have introduced the delete command, allowing you to specifically or selectively delete records. Today, we're announcing the update command that allows you to update records by deleting existing records and appending new ones in a single transaction. So this is pretty cool for something like a log-based database. These can be challenging things to do in them. And so that's cool. I don't use a Custo database. I use a custom data. No, I'm just I don't use it. But again, if you're using it, you now have the update command. Use it and prosper. Amazon Document Database, which is basically a MongoDB database, but they can't say MongoDB because that would be the SSPL license breach. now supports automatic backups and snapshot copying. So snapshot copying just allows you to get it away somewhere else, like somewhere further away in a different region and whatnot, and copy that sucker around. So that's pretty cool, and it's awesome. I'm glad that they do it. It just makes your data more reliable. There is a fee for all the storage that you have, but who cares? And the very last thing is Amazon Document DB with MongoDB capacity. Elastic cluster supports readable secondaries and start and stop clusters. So this is basically just a bunch of other improvements that they brought. They brought backups, but they also brought readable secondaries and start-stop clusters. Now, my one problem with readable secondaries, and I don't know how they handle it exactly, but a lot of times readable secondaries can actually have stale data and can struggle with reading your own writes. And what I mean by reading your own writes is if I write a change to my name and then I read the database and I hit one of those readable secondaries, do I actually get my name change or do I get old stale data? A lot of the times you'll get old stale data. So if you're using readable secondaries, I always encourage you to understand how your database handles those and what it means for your things. You can solve that issue by caches and some other things, but you just have to understand that it exists and whatnot. But it's nice that they added readable secondaries and the ability to stop and start clusters. All right. I have one last thing that didn't really fit into any of the other things, so I'm just going to bring it up here. I know that I work remotely from home. I do travel to the office every once in a while, but I found an interesting article on the return to office. Not article, but research paper. Done. This research paper felt a little bit too opinionated for me to take at face value. But if you read this, it says return to office mandates, and you can go through and read this. It has a bunch of references. It's not bad. I said a little opinionated, but it's not bad. It's pretty long. It's pretty long, but a lot of this is like a bunch of references. So page 28 to 42 are references. So, it's not as long as it feels. But basically, their conclusion is that work from home, return to office mandates don't actually help a company's productivity and just hurt employee satisfaction. Now, I don't know if return to office mandates. I personally, and I've worked from home a lot. Well before the pandemic, when I was working for SUSE, I worked remotely from home. I think return to office mandates, probably, yes. But I also think that there's something to be said that some people work better from an office. And two, I do think that if you're brand new to working, whatever the work is, it can be harder. Not impossible, but harder in a remote work environment. I think it can be harder. And I think that you have to actually work at it more if you're remote. You have to be cognizant of that fact. Yeah, I think it'd be really hard. Like if I was a junior engineer and I knew nothing and I was fully remote, I think that would have been way harder. Like when I very first started, I think that would have been way harder. Not impossible, but anyways. I can send a link to this this paper. And that's it. That is the news for this week. Did anybody see anything that I missed? Should we talk about it? Should we talk about React 19? I don't know that much about React 19. I know it's coming out. I know that people want it to have server-side rendering. I know people want to write queries, database queries in the front end. Are all those things good things? I don't know. I think that's a big thing in React 19, right? Is that there's like some like run this on the server. Maybe that was next. Maybe that's next. Ah, Raj, this is good stuff to bring. This is good stuff to bring up. Let's talk about it. I missed this. A bug in the image streaming feature might cause containers to fail because of a missing file or files. Containers running on a node with image streaming enabled on the following versions might fail to start or run with errors informing that certain files don't exist. The following are examples of such errors. So this is their Google. Google. Oh my gosh. Their Google Kubernetes engine, GKE. Okay, so it's on these versions of GKE. And I guess not on their earlier releases of this. So if you're having this problem, just disable image streaming. Thank you so much, Raj, for bringing this up. This is a great one. Right. Basically, it looks like any 128, 129, 128 are done. And if you're on the latest version of 127, you're also broken. So if you're seeing these two errors, you might want to go ahead and disable image streaming. This is a fantastic find. Thank you so much for bringing this up. That's what we can do as a community. Thank you, Raj. I actually mean it. There's only so much I can find and harvest, so much time that I have to spend on that. So I do miss things. So if you find something and you want to talk about it, please make sure to bring it. This is a fantastic one. And this actually affects people too. So this is a good one. It doesn't look like there's much more to say on it other than there is no fix. Disable image streaming. Oh, interesting. A good note here, just reading it. If you're using GKE Autopilot, you can't disable image streaming on individual clusters. Perfect. You can disable the container files system API, which disables image streaming for the entire project. So, that sucks. That sucks, honestly. Well, there you go. All right. Well, that is it for me. I don't have anything else. Yeah, Raj, that makes it actually worse for autopilot users. That actually implies something interesting about autopilot. Autopilot, I mean, it's not just about disabling image streaming. It means that probably any setting like this is per project. Like, you can't affect a setting like this, which I guess actually makes sense if you think about it. GK Autopilot is made to take settings away from you. And doing that, they make a very opinionated build. This is their build. They think image streaming is the thing to do. So you're going to have to do image streaming because that's what they think is best for you. And also when you do, so basically there's kind of like this, I'm going to say Venn diagram, but it's not really, it's kind of a Venn diagram. But when you're building something as a service, you could say a database as a service or whatnot, you get into this thing where basically you have your configurability. And like, you can do extreme amounts of configurability, but then there's no way for you to think of or be prepared for every way that somebody can break their cluster, because there's combinations of settings that just don't work. And so then there's like configurability, and there's, I'm going to say ease of use. This is not the exact term that I want here, but it's good enough. And so basically, when you design one of these systems, you can go over here and say, it's here. There is no configurability. It's easy to use. You can't shoot yourself in the foot, but then you get no configurability. I think a lot try to shoot for here, where there's enough configurability, but it's still really easy to use. And then you can put it here where it's not easy to use because you have to manage a bunch of stuff yourself, but it's super configurable, super custom, super powerful. GKE Autopilot goes towards this. Like, there is no configuration, none. And so I guess that makes sense. It sucks, but it makes this problem worse for those people. But yeah, I guess I look at a lot of things in computer science as trade-offs. You're looking at something like this where you've got to make trade-offs because, like, we've all built services. We've all been forced to make these types of trade-offs, whether we've contemplated it or not. There are things that we have to either subconsciously make the decision of or purposefully make the decision of where our service is. And you should, at the start, decide what your goal is. Like, this is something your PMs or whatnot should be saying, hey, our goal is to make the most easy to use thing. And so when a question comes up of, do we support this configurability, this configurable option, you can say, no, our goal is to the most easy to use. Or we're supposed to be in the middle. Let's talk about that. Or we're supporting all configurations, so the answer is yes, we have to support it. What does that mean? And how's the best way we can support it? But it allows you to come to those conversations with an informed, goal. Yeah, anyways. Thanks for bringing it up. That's a fantastic little thing to bring up. I am consistently grateful to the people that bring news articles because they bring things that are really quite useful. Please feel free to bring them and share them with us. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to let you all get going. Thank you so much for joining me on the news. I hope you guys liked it. I hope to make these better in the future with stuff for software engineers. Please let me know if there's a topic that I'm not covering that you would like to be covered, or I could cover them better for you, and I will work to get that done. I hope that you guys have a great day, a great rest of your week. Hope this helps you start the week off well, and I hope to see you guys next weekend. Thanks, everybody. See ya.